Hey guys, today we are going to talk about 4K TVs, so stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to The Well-Rounded Dude. My name is Chris. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel, we cover a whole bunch of topics, trying to elevate you to that well-rounded status. Today is no different, except for the fact that I'm going back to my karate days and doing this video on a horse stance, and we're going to talk about televisions, specifically 4K TVs, whether they're worth it or not. Is there really any difference? We're going to jump into those topics right now. Okay guys, so you might be wondering why I'm talking to you about TVs today. Well, for many reasons. One, we all like to relax. That's part of being a well-rounded individual. Also being a well-rounded individual, in my opinion, is being up to date on the most modern technology. Even though 4K isn't the most modern, 8K is, but I digress. You get what I'm saying. We're going to talk about 4K TVs. And also, ironically enough, it's NFL playoffs. The Super Bowl is around the time that the most televisions are sold, so it's perfect timing for this video. Okay, so let's talk about, do you need to upgrade or should you upgrade? My personal opinion is if you need a new TV, meaning your old TV is not working at all and you're gonna go buy a new one, buy a 4K TV. But if your current TV is working, if that's a 1080p television, if that's currently working, no, you do not need to run out and purchase a brand new 4K TV unless you want to. That's totally up to you. I can't make that decision for you. But what I will say is 4K format is much better than 1080p, but a lot of people have had a hard time adjusting to that format. If you can look at recent sales, you'll see that 4K hasn't grown as quickly as 1080p did, and I think that's for a few reasons, and I'll share that with you right now. So journey back with me, back to, we'll say 2007. That's when I upgraded my television to a high-def television, to a 1080p television, and, we could physically see it. I think, there was a big difference between looking at a tube television and looking at a flat screen television, and you could really see it was more modern, it was different, and so most people jumped on it. Along with looking at the picture quality of DVD to a picture quality of a Blu-ray, you could definitely see a big difference in picture. Now, let's cut to 4 years ago. That's roughly, I remember 4K's coming out, so we'll say 2018. Okay? If I showed you a picture of a 1080p television and a 4K television off, just the picture of the television, you really can't tell the difference. And I think that has a lot to do with why 4K sales are a little bit slower. But make no mistake, just because the TVs look the same and, the Blu-ray players, the 4K Blu-ray player and the regular Blu-ray player, can't talk today. It's this horse stance I'm in. Look the same. They do different things. You're going to get a much better picture out of 4K. I did a video before speaking about physical media, but I did talk about 4K a lot. You can see that video here. And I am 100% behind the format. I do think it's a better format, especially for older movies. They do a lot of work with, if the older movies were shot on film. My favorite movie is Halloween, for example. They've released a 4K version, actually two, but I digress, of Halloween, and it looks like the movie was shot yesterday instead of 1978. We're talking an almost 50-year-old film, 45, really, okay, 45-year-old film that looks like it was shot yesterday, just because it was on film, and the technology of 4K really makes that picture pop. So let's talk about the picture quality. 1080p and 4K have a very similar picture quality, even though you're getting 4 times the resolution with a 4K image, okay? So that's another reason why sales probably haven't grown as much as they were hoping for with a 4K image, because when you look at it, you definitely can tell the difference, but it's not as big of a contrast as it was with 1080p and standard tube televisions from 2007. You know, it's just not. So people are just kind of like, I can get it later. But here's where 4K really takes the cake and really beats 1080p. HDR. HDR stands for High Dynamic Range. This is a technology that can be found in your 4K televisions, your Xboxes, your 4K players. It's even available on your streaming services such as Netflix, Hulu. Disney Plus kind of does a shoddy job, but they have it. And trying to think of it, Peacock has it. If they offer 4K content, they will usually offer high dynamic range. What high dynamic range is a series of colors. You can get more colors out of HDR than you can out of something that doesn't have it. An example, your sunsets, your sunrises, your fires, they're all going to be much more bright, much more vivid. The first time I watched a HDR fire, it had a scene in I think it was Bad Boys for Life, where there was fire in it. I was like, wow, it looks like my living room is on fire. And it wasn't. It's just, you look like you're actually witnessing a fire in real life. So HDR also makes buying your new TVs and your 4K players a little bit more complicated. It's not as simple as just upgrading like it was back in 2007, like with 1080p, but you have to know which type of HDR. There's two types of HDR. HDR10, which is an open source that is found on a lot of different Blu-rays and such. And then there is Dolby Vision, which is not. HDR10 is open source, Dolby Vision is not. What's the difference between HDR10 and Dolby Vision? A normal digital image has about 8 bits of color per channel. That's roughly 256 shades of red, blue, and green per channel, meaning it's about 16 million colors. HDR10 uses 10 bits per channel, which means there are about 1 billion different shades of that red, blue, and green per each channel. So Dolby Vision uses about 12 bits per channel instead of 10, and that estimates to roughly 68 billion different colors that you can see. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, then I gotta go with Dolby Vision. Well, hold your horses. While it does produce more colors and a better picture, most of the TVs that are out on the market can't perform at the levels that Dolby Vision can produce. So while you may get a slightly better picture, you're not going to go wrong with HDR10 either. You're also going to find that HDR10 is available on more formats. Like I said before, Xbox supports it, PlayStation supports it, Netflix, Vudu, all your standard streaming services. If they offer 4K content, they do offer some form of HDR. They'll offer both sometimes, but HDR10 is free for them to use, where Dolby Vision requires them to have a license. So you'll see less content with Dolby Vision than you will with HDR10 for that reason. So I want to show you guys, it's my copy of Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and on the back, you can see it does say that it offers HDR10. I mean, it says in the front that it's got HDR10. Doom Eternal, it's not an old title. I mean, well, I guess it kind of is now, but offers HDR10 video. You guys can see that here. And then for like Borderlands 3, offers HDR10. This one just says that it has high dynamic range though. So, I just want to throw that out there, that even for your games, HDR is kind of important, and most of the time HDR10 is the way that they're going. So as far as movies go, I wanted to show you Batman Begins, as you can see here, HDR. They make a big point to talk about it, and this is on 4K. John Wick Chapter 3. You know, they make a big deal about talking about 4K as well. And, you know, Knives Out. This is the Steelbook edition, but they talk about HDR as well. Interesting note is that you can look on the back of your movies. For instance, here is Knives Out at the bottom. Should be able to see it says Dolby Vision. So that's cool. Dolby Vision is included in Knives Out. Same thing with John Wick Chapter 3 is that it's got Dolby Vision. It's usually written very small. Batman Begins doesn't have that on here, and I suspect that this one may not have it, although the other two movies in the Dark Knight trilogy do. It could have just been left out, or it's HDR10. Now the good thing is, if you do go with a television system that has HDR10 and you buy a movie with Dolby Vision, don't worry, it is backwards compatible, so you really don't have to worry, but just throwing that out there. One more thing about HDR is that if you are going to buy a used television, try to save a little money, just be wary that not all 4K TVs originally had HDR. It's a fairly recent addition to the 4K format, so just be careful on that. And guys, finally, as of this recording, I don't believe there's any kind of television broadcasting service that's offering 4K content, you know, that's like your YouTube TVs, your DirecTV streams, Comcast cable, Spectrum cable, whatever you may have. I don't believe that they're offering 4K content, but I could be wrong. But that shouldn't stop you from investing in 4K. Sporting events like football, like I said, you know, we're in playoff season now, and this is the time when people usually buy TVs, oddly enough. Football looks great. You know, even though it's streamed in 1080, it looks great on a 4K TV. You'll feel like you were on the field. And I would highly suggest you future-proof yourself with that kind of content. You know, with 4K content, it is becoming the norm, slowly but surely. I mean, our phones can record in 4K, and the display is in 4K. You know, even this channel, we've been producing videos in 4K because that's the way things are going. I mean, YouTube, it's not required yet, but, you know, research does tend to show that they're favoring channels with 4K, and I highly recommend and support the format. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I was able to give you a little insight into 4K and HDR and, you know, the newest format on the block. I can only hope that you guys will do your own research and decide for yourself what's best. I'm a big advocate on doing your own research and give it a shot. I think you guys will be pleasantly surprised. You know, go to your local Best Buy and take a look and see the difference between TVs and the cost too. I mean, the costs have come down in the last couple of years. So we will see you next time. If you enjoyed this, got some value out of it, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, do all the social media things. Help me fight the YouTube algorithm, all right? Check out our website, thewellroundeddude.com. Dude15 gets you 15% off your total purchase, and we got some cool stuff on there. Actually added some new items. We got a pint glass up there, and we got one of those neck gaiter things since masks are kind of becoming a thing again. And yeah guys, we'll see you next time. Thank you for everything, and I will see you soon. Peace. I'm gonna go watch some TV now.